Ladies and gentlemen, sickos and normies, welcome back to the Lodge. We've got another Kingdom Hearts video for you today, where we will be discussing the Foreteller Ira and his embodiment of the sin Wrath. But before we continue any further, be warned that spoilers are on the way. Now, as we've covered in previous videos of mine, all of the Foretellers are based on one of the 7 deadly sins. In Ira's case, his name translates to the Latin word for wrath. Now, before we move any further, let's uncover the sin Wrath for a moment. Typically, when we think of wrath, we think of anger, rage, or hatred. Now, while this is true, there's more to it than that. The manifestation of one's wrath can take many forms, not just anger and rage. Feelings of wrath can manifest in different ways, including impatience, hateful misanthropy, revenge, and self-destructive behavior. If Ira is truly motivated by wrath, then we will see these particular manifestations come to light in his behavior. It would be too easy to just up and say Ira manifests his wrath during the Keyblade War, because you can make that same argument for any of the Foretellers. What I'm looking to do is uncover the motivation lying underneath Ira's behavior. So we are going to focus on 3 particular manifestations of wrath: impatience, revenge, and self-destructive behavior. But, for the sake of context, let's first observe the scene where Ira is given his role by the Master.
So, did you look through the book?
Yes, but I'm still analyzing it.
Wow, no quick skim for you, huh?
I just prefer to be thorough. Master, is what it says in the last passage true?
Oh yeah, that. Bummer, huh?
Yes.
By the way, if one day I suddenly disappear, I'm counting on you to keep the others calm, okay?
Huh? Disappear?
Vanish? Dim? Fade? I don't know how to explain it. It's just hypothetical talk.
Okay.
This world is full of light. It's a world comprised of many smaller worlds, all connected, stretching as far as the eye can see. One great light protects us all throughout this vast land. All worlds share one light, one fate.
I take it you're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Yep, you're right on the money. People believe that the light that is Kingdom Hearts will be here forever. But if it were to disappear, the world would be enveloped in darkness.
I understand. That is why you granted us these Keyblades. With these, we can spread the teachings of light. And we can protect Kingdom Hearts from darkness.
No, they're not for protecting Kingdom Hearts.
Huh?
The final passage reads, "On that fated land, a great war shall transpire. Darkness will prevail, and the light expire."
Isn't it our duty as Keyblade Wielders to prevent this war from taking place?
Not possible.
What?
You really think you can change the future?
Then, what do you want us to do?
We have to focus on what comes after. There's no use thinking of ways to change events that we know are gonna happen.
But what about all of those who are here now? And the ones who will be here when the darkness finally comes? Are we to abandon all of them?
Come on, are you telling me that you think the world can be saved by just 7 people?
We have to at least try. With enough Keyblade Wielders, we could...
Well, if you want to give it a shot.
Yes.
Alrighty, good luck.
Simply put, Iras' role is to take over for the Master after his departure. Ira accepts this role pretty willingly, but expresses concern about the fate of the world as told by the Book of Prophecies. We don't see any signs of wrath just yet. However, we start to see seeds of it beginning to manifest not soon after this scene in his meeting with the Foretellers. I want to lead off with impatience because the corresponding virtue to the sin of wrath is actually patience. So as stated before, we will see impatience manifest in Ira's first on-screen meeting with the Foretellers.
There's a traitor among us. I believe it's one of us here in this room.
No, Ira. I respectfully disagree. What proof do we have that the bangles are tied to the power of darkness, or if a nightmare is to blame? We shouldn't simply jump to conclusions.
Ira, some leader you are. You've managed to plant seeds of doubt in all of us with that speech. What, did you expect the traitor to give themselves up with that accusation of yours? That was foolish.
Aced, that's quite enough.
It looks to me like the Master made the wrong choice.
Wait, where do you think you're going?
While Ira was correct about there being a traitor, his impatience with the accusation caused a rift within the Foretellers group. Foolishly, he was hoping for the traitor to give themselves up on the spot. It appears to me, and I would love to hear what you guys think, but it seems like he was looking to invoke wrath on the traitor a little too soon, manifesting in his impatience on the topic. And as Envy points out later in the scene,
What's wrong, Ira? This isn't like you.
Iras' role and knowledge of a traitor seems to be pushing him in a sinful direction. Not only in the manifestation of his impatience, but his sense of justice is now being perverted into vengeance for the traitor, which will lead us into our next point. Revenge. Ira obviously wants nothing more than to hunt down the traitor and stop them in their tracks. I believe that this puts him on a path of seeking vengeance on whoever the traitor might be. We see this when his perception of who the traitor is shifts back and forth between Aced and Gula. First, let's examine Aced. The next scene we'll look at is a conversation between Ira and Envy. Envy tells Ira that Gula and Aced's unions are now allied. This leads to Ira concluding that Aced is the traitor, but when Envy explains why his heart still belongs to the light, we see anger ignited in Ira's speech.
Envy, have you learned something?
It seems Aced and Gula's unions are now allied.
So Aced is the traitor after all.
No, I don't believe he is.
Why's that?
To Aced, unification is a means of gathering strength to oppose the darkness. So I believe his heart still belongs to the light.
Even so, forming alliances was strictly forbidden by the Master.
Given Aced's criticisms in a previous scene, and his misbehavior, it looks like Ira is harboring some disdain for Aced, and we see his underlying desire for revenge when the two of them clash during the Keyblade War. Whether right or wrong, Ira blames the Keyblade War on Aced and labels it betrayal. Those feelings of betrayal turned into a need for vengeance, and we see it play out in his dialogue and actions during this scene. Next we have his suspicion of Gula, which is actually birthed in a scene with Aced, where we see Wrath's corresponding virtue of patience embodied by Ira, when he finds Aced and forgives him for his missteps, for now. However, when he learns that Gula is the holder of the lost page, he immediately sets out to find him. Seemingly, Ira was going to invoke his wrath on Gula. This is reinforced in Ava's attempt to stop him and her description of his eyes in a later scene.
Tell me where he is.
But why? What are you going to do?
None of your concern.
Don't.
What?
I won't let you near him. He just asked me to give up Gula. His eyes, they were scary. I was worried he'd do something awful.
So we see pretty clearly that Ira had every intention of finding who the traitor is and hunting them down. As leader, it was his job to keep all of the Foretellers unified, but his revenge masquerading as justice became his primary focus, and all it did was cause disordinance. Lastly, let's move on to the manifestation that ties it all together. Self-destructive behavior. This is perhaps the most evident of the three manifestations. At the end of the day, Ira had a role as leader of the Foretellers. As leader, it is one's job to keep whoever you are leading unified and motivated. Ira's impatient desire for revenge against the traitor did nothing but make the Foretellers suspicious of one another. The ripples of this led to secret alliances, spying, fighting, and just general distrust. Which leads us to our final point here. We find out that because of Gula's gluttony for Lux, both Ira and Aced set out to gather Lux for themselves as well, which knowingly will upset the balance beset by the Master. Knowing this, Ira decides to do it anyway.
Gula's on a mission to collect Lux.
That explains why Aced and Ira are as well. They're trying to maintain the balance. But that isn't the balance we were expected to keep. If everyone's collecting light solely for themselves, Keyblade Wielders will soon turn against one another, which will lead to the Keyblade War.
He may think he is delaying the inevitable, but in reality, all he is doing is pushing the world further towards darkness. His wrath has blinded him into this self-destructive behavior, and he brought the rest of the Foretellers down with him. But anyway, that's enough out of me. I'm interested in what you guys think. So drop a comment down below and let me know what you think about Ira and his manifestation of wrath. Where do you think his character is gonna go? Do you think he's gonna appear in Remind? I wanna know. Drop a like, subscribe, and I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies later.